Good morning and welcome to the Pleasure for Health podcast, where we talk about all topics related to relationships and intimacy. And today I am pretty excited, but also um, just kind of openly curious about looking at our relationship with ourself and our memories, and potentially how this intersects with a lot of the work that is being done now with artificial intelligence. So before we get really into that, I hope everyone's doing well. My name is Elsa. You can find out more about my work with relationships on my website, pleasureforhealth.com. So let's dive in. This was a quote that came to my attention by Rudolf Steiner that said, "Our experience of our own identity is linked to the realization of our own life history, because the treasure of our memories is what makes our lives whole." And this was brought up in a therapeutic context. You may understand this if you think about a time in your life where you don't have a really clear memory. So there's people, that don't remember much about their childhood, let's say. And you go to see a psychologist and they start working with you, and potentially they're working to help you remember some of the things that happened or just what your childhood was like. And not always traumatic memories, maybe just to give you a sense of fullness. If you don't remember anything that happened to you before the age of 5, let's say, you're kind of missing a piece of yourself. And I can understand that feeling personally. And also, as far as working with clients, this comes up, and I would say, it's hard for them to grasp their full self when there's like gaps in their memories. And so psychologists might be trained to ask many different questions. What was the weather like, or, where were you living, or what was your house like, or describe the dress your mother usually wore, or that kind of thing. You would ask questions in order to help someone come to some recollection of their memories of that time. And, many times the internal observation of that can be really helpful. It can be helpful. People use it now with, when we become traumatized, we kind of lose that observation of our surroundings. And so it helps to be like, okay, describe 3 things in the room that you're seeing right now. What color are they? What shape? How big are they? Describe the picture on the wall. And we have that sense of observation of external things, which can kind of give us that distance from our memories. If you could remember what the room looked like, maybe you had something happened to you in that house, and you can describe the room, you can become aware of the memories more gently, more kind of distanced from them than remembering potentially something that physically or emotionally happened to you directly. And that would be more a subjective memory of pain, or a subjective memory of, hurting yourself or falling or whatever the trauma was. We have this idea that, these memories kind of make up who we are. And, I find that fascinating, as far as we need both, right? We need to have that objective kind of sense of describing what's out there, so that we can place ourselves in time and space. And then we have this subjective awareness where we turn our gaze inwards, and we can have a sense of subjective, I was happy at the time, or I was scared, or I was worried about my mother-in-law, or whatever. We can kind of remember the emotions and the feelings, and oh, nobody liked me in grade 5, whatever that is. We have this subjective experience as well that is encoded into our memories also. And so we want to have this balance between objective descriptions of where we were in time and space, and also the subjective experience of what we were going through. And that creates this really interesting mix. And if we get too subjective, we just get lost in the experience and the feeling of that. And if we get too objective, well, then we kind of become robotic, which it kind of leads me to this interesting intersect here with where we find ourselves in the world, looking at artificial intelligence, looking at chat bots and relationship bots and AI that does all these things that may um, be able to get to know us by potentially having access to the information that creates all of the memories we have. And I think we're not very far off from having the kind of technology where you might grow up with some kind of a personal AI that would actually have all of these memories, potentially the objective memories of where you were, what you were doing, what the weather was like, and give exact descriptions of all of that. And your subjective experience of that may be different, but there may be something about that can be encoded as well. And it's interesting to think about, like, well, how does that where does that lead as far as being ourself? Do we have now a second self that could explain and describe every experience we'd ever been through? And what would that do? Because that's pretty interesting. Our own brains might, because of certain circumstances, shut down certain memories from our conscious awareness. And often we do have a lot of unconscious memories and subconscious memories that could, there are ways to elicit that. So it's a bit like using hypnotism to do that. And I think they've talked about this kind of idea of working with artificial intelligence as kind of a hypnosis. You're trying to, access different things. But, where does this lead as far as, having these artificial selves that may have all the memories that we have and potentially be, if not ourself exactly, be a really good mirror of ourself? And, how will that be? And I think what's coming to me that seems interesting as a sort of a coach of life and consciousness and somatic awareness and all that is that, we may have an opportunity to have ourselves mirrored back to us in a really profound way. Now that may or may not be a good thing. I was reading an article just before doing this that, somebody created an AI companion and then used it to offload all of their negative energy. So the AI became mean back to her. And, that's interesting because, what you're sort of giving out to the world is like mirrored back to you. And that's kind of a spiritual law that many of us kind of think holds some truth. And so if we have created these artificial intelligences that perhaps become pretty good mirrors of who we are, then the best work that we could do as human beings would be to become really aware of who we are and what we're actually putting out there, energetically, in our written words. Every single thing we do or say or how we act in a particular way would become something that would be remembered in this artificial intelligence, and that would be mirrored back to us. And it would be very difficult for us to lie to ourselves at this point about who we are. Oh, I'm really a nice person. But, if our AI was like, well, you didn't go over and see if that old lady needed help crossing the road. You didn't, open the door for that gentleman. You didn't, maybe there's lots of reasons why what we say to ourselves wouldn't match what we are actually doing and the actual memories that may be going along with us. So the idea that we could lie to ourselves, that has become kind of something like a coping strategy potentially, but also a way of avoidance, may become harder and harder to do. So, the jury's still out on my side whether AI is a good thing or a bad thing. And I don't know if we'll really have the opportunity to if it'll really matter, because I think it's here to stay. And, so we definitely have to reckon with it. But in this very interesting way, it might become, a way to relate to our own self, and understand, who we've become. And so the work, potentially could be, how do I make myself into a more conscious or generous or grateful person? Maybe something that we can have help with here from our own creation in computer land. So I think that's an interesting thing, because there's going to be lots of jobs and lots of work that is not going to be so effective for humans to do anymore. But this potential for self-growth and awareness is something that we will, I think, have to take on as important. And I think we will be required to take on. Otherwise, we are creating monsters, really, and really definitely. So, what I'm taking away from this initial exploration into the world of AI and ChatGPT and all of these things is to say, well, why am I asking this question, and what am I doing when I'm, if I'm complaining to my, if I write a lot of complaining Facebook posts or, putting other people down, maybe that's something I want to look at, because do I want that reflected back at me? Do I want that reflecting out in the world? How can I be more conscious with what I'm actually doing, as far as, putting these things out there? And if you start connecting, I've spent maybe a total of 30 minutes chatting with one of these AI chat options, and named my whatever they're called, AI bot or whatever, and had a little chat. And it's interesting. It's like, well, I chose to ask a kind of philosophical question, and then I chose to ask a health related question, and what questions am I interested in? And, do I want to spend my time complaining about things, or do I want to, do I ask questions about the end of the universe or dystopian futures, or do I ask questions that are asking for ways to look at the world in a hopeful way? It really actually kind of made me think. I was like, oh, what am I putting on here? Because this is going to be remembered. These memories are going to be, this is how the chatbot remembers our conversations and becomes more helpful in the way that I program it by asking what I'm asking. So, I really was like, what do I want those memories to be? And so, it definitely makes you think a little more consciously about what you're putting out there, or hopefully it does. I don't know if it'll make everyone think about that, but I think we definitely need to think. And I think not just for the fact of not putting our real selves out there in any kind of way, but actually realizing that energetically, this is what we're putting out there. Our way of looking at the world, the words we choose, the concepts we choose to think about, the way that we act, these are all energies that we are putting out in the world. And we would do well to be more mindful of that. And if it requires sitting and meditating for 5 minutes before you get up so that you remember what you're grateful for as you begin your day, then this becomes really important when we have these types of artificial intelligence or internet, or just anyway, it gets manifested in the world and compounded, exponentially made bigger because of all these ways that we are now interacting. So it's not a small thing. Like if you were back in the day in a village, you maybe ran into 100 people in a day, and those are the same people you're going to see most of your life, and you never go more than 20 miles from your village. You have a pretty small circle of influence. But now you could put something out there, you could be completely unknown and put something out there on the internet or on the chat GPT or wherever you put things, and you could be, worldwide. You could be in everybody's awareness. Like that is an incredible influence that we potentially have. And I think we probably always did have that energetically, the butterfly effect. If you do something over here, it could create a storm on the other side of the world kind of thing. I think that's always been there, but now it's really in our face. Like we can't deny that that happens. Like back in the day, you maybe didn't get those connections as easily, but now we're really there. Like we can, it will come back at us really quickly. And so when we look at what's happening in the world today, this is a reflection of who we are as a human race. Or whatever is alive and adding to the energies of the world right now. And so, we would do well to become a little more consciously curative, yeah, curate what we put out there. So that is basically where I'm going with my understanding of this for now. I will keep you up to date if I get some more insights. But I really feel that this is something that we can work on. And this is something that is essentially human, like to have that aspiration to be a better person, to have that aspiration to work on ourselves, to be more conscious of who we are. I think that's essentially a human trait, hopefully. And I think that ability to help others become more conscious of who they are and how we together how we together create these energetics and these memories. And, our history is encoded in all the information that is out there to all of these chatbots right now, chat at GPT and everything. They can access much of known history, written history anyway, which is a bias in and of itself. But to really be more mindful of what we're doing and where we steward ourselves. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought today. And obviously, my work will continue with groups and coaching and working one on one with clients and putting out my programs and, really basically trying to help people to really get to know and care about and love all aspects of themselves so that we can be integrated, so that we're not creating monsters out there, either energetically or on the internet or in our AI that is coming down the pipeline really quickly. That we're actually aware of who we are and that we're accepting and integrating all those parts of ourselves. That is a big order, but that is something that I'm pretty passionate about and I really enjoy working with people on. So if you are interested in my work, please do look me up on pleasureforhealth.com. That's a good place to start. And I look forward to offering many future podcasts on, creating ourself in a way that is, creates a world that we all want to live in. So that's the end of the podcast for today, but I look forward to your comments, and please do reach out if you're interested in knowing more about what I offer. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.